Hey everyone, it's me Paul with United Bumper Repair. We have a Alfa Romeo here, and this isn't the first time this has happened since I've been repairing bumpers. On this particular car, maybe they have a couple of weak tabs, so if it gets bumped in a parking lot or something like that, it broke the tabs loose. Instead of replacing the entire bumper, I'm going to epoxy it back into place, and for the amount of money you're going to spend on epoxying it, you could probably hit it 5 or 10 times and just keep re-epoxying it if you have to. But usually if I epoxy it, you don't have any issues. So someone else already did back here. I'm going to kind of break this off, but I'm going to rough this up, make it look like Wolverine got a hold of it, or Freddy Krueger, and down here as well, and the back side of the bumper also. So here, and the back side of the bumper I'm going to rough up pretty good. And then I have a 2-part epoxy here, and it's not Home Depot stuff, so this stuff dries pretty quick, and it's going to end up having a stronger bond than the factory. And also one more spot down here, if you want to look here, it mentioned that piece had broke, so I'm going to epoxy that also and then drill a hole in it and put the screw back in it. So let's get started. Okay. Here I'm just using a pick tool. I mean, you can pick one of these up at like Harbor Freight or something and just really rough everything up so the epoxy has something to adhere to. Whoever did this repair before didn't really rough it up enough so it didn't hold, and maybe they used a weaker epoxy. So you really want to scuff it like crazy. And then I apply the epoxy, and I applied this one first, added a little bit of heat to it to speed it up a little bit, and I'll drill this hole later. So when I go to pull the bumper back and pull off some of the old epoxy, yours may not have this issue, but I want to get all of that off of there before I start scuffing everything, because I want it to bite really hard. And these 2 areas that I'm removing the old epoxy, it's kind of a bonus for the epoxy to stick to that portion, but the main area is right by the fender. But I'm going to go ahead and I'll emphasize on that later. I'm just scuffing this area like crazy. I mean, you want to scuff it really, really deep, almost to the point you may think you're cutting through the bumper to the painted side. You really want to make it rough. You don't want the bumper to just hold on. You want it to hold on in case it gets bumped again, so it'll be strong enough to hold in place. And these are the 3 areas that I scuffed. That's going to be seating with the areas that I'm going to be scuffing on the opposite side. Here, you really want to get rough with it also. It's not much on camera, but I did rough it up a little bit afterwards that you don't really see on camera. And this is the main area that you want to put a lot of epoxy on this spot and the back side of the bumper. And I put some tape on it in case you slip with the tool. You don't scratch the fender. I mean, of course, if you're pushing hard enough, it's going to go right through the tape. But so maybe use a little bit of duct tape, a couple of layers. And this area here is very, very hard to scuff. It's not as soft. So I just kind of crossed it, scratched it back and forth, almost like a chain link fence, to have some type of pattern in it, some type of groove. And to be sure, I did drill a few holes in the plastic itself. That way the epoxy can stick inside of it and hold it that way, not just on the surface. So I apologize for the camera angle here, but you'll see when I'm done. Just 4 or 5 holes in there, and that'll help to really hold that epoxy. And in the future, if you do have to remove the bumper, you yank it hard enough, really hard, it's going to end up breaking the epoxy loose, and you can just redo it again. And if this is something that you're going to be doing yourself, you want to do a mock-up before, put some bricks up underneath to hold the bumper up, and then run a piece of tape across the top to make sure everything can hold into place without you having to hold it by hand. I had a hard time with the tape this time, but you want to rig it up to where it'll set by itself, and then you can leave it overnight if you're going to be using like the Home Depot epoxy or something like that. So that's what I'm doing here, just to make sure everything holds, because as soon as I mix my epoxy, I've only got about 5 minutes to play with it. And I put a fresh piece of tape up there That's important because once the tape sticks, it doesn't stick as much. So you want to use a fresh piece of tape when you go to do it. And if you got 2 people, it helps. Now when you go to apply the epoxy, you want to kind of work it in those scratches and maybe, you know, leave it a little loose, kind of piled on there. So when you go to press it up against the other panel, it'll act like, you know, mustard squishing out of a sandwich, and it adheres really well. Now on the top portion of the bumper that I'm doing right now, I'm putting a layer there, and I'm going to put a layer right where the fender is. That is the most important part of this vehicle, where the bumper needs to hold. The other pieces, other 2 pieces below, that bottom one I'm doing right now, that area is a little loose when it glues to the vehicle. It's like some type of air duct or something like that. But the part that I'm doing right now is fixed to the car. So I'm putting epoxy on both sides, and it's going to have a extremely good adhesion, where the other 2 areas below is kind of like a bonus. So I put everything into place. It popped back in, and had my assistant there to put the tape on. And like I said, if you're doing this yourself, put a couple of bricks up underneath, you know, before to practice and all, and then leave it like that overnight. This stuff dries in about 5 to 10 minutes, so I just choose to hold it. And when it's ready, I'll just go ahead and untape the tape at the top. Okay, it looks like everything is holding well. I'm gonna remove the tape there, and I just put that on to make sure that it's as flush as possible with the fender. I'm gonna move the wheel in. I'm gonna go ahead and pre-drill this little hole here, and then attach that little metal grommet. I don't know how to pronounce that, but attach that piece in there and then run the screw through it. And we're pretty much good to go. The vehicle is ready to drive. And like I said, if you're doing this yourself and it says it takes 24 hours to cure, then wait the 24 hours. If it says it takes 10 minutes to set, that means you've got about 10 minutes to play with it. If it takes 5 minutes to set, you only got 5 minutes to work with it. And as long as you practice mocking it up into place, then you can go and get the stuff that sets within about 5 minutes. Okay, all done. The epoxy dried pretty quick, in about 5 minutes or so. Should hold up, technically stronger than the factory. It's a lot better than just replacing the bumper and it happen again. So like I said, if it were to happen again, you can do it multiple times for the cost compared to the cost of a new bumper. So any questions that you may have, feel free to contact me. Thank you for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye.